Hey everybody, welcome to the Lion's Den of Leadership. This is your host, Steve Rozenberg, and I am joined with my very good friend and host, Alex Osenenko. How'd I do on that one? Better?
Wonderful, Steve. Welcome everyone. Good to hear, good to be here. Good to host the show with you, Steve.
No. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. Got an amazing guest. We got Doug Brien on here today that we're going to kind of dig in and kind of pick his brain a little bit. And just real quick, some housekeeping. Want to explain the show and why we even started it. As people know, Alex and myself, we're both entrepreneurs. And as we all know, as entrepreneurs, sometimes you get punched in the face. Sometimes you have bad days. Sometimes you have bad weeks or bad years. And, no one's alone in this kind of, I'll say battle, crusade, whatever you want to call it. But at the end of the day, it sucks getting hit in the face. And sometimes it's good to talk to other investors, other entrepreneurs that are out battling this battle, to understand, am I crazy? Am I doing something wrong? Am I the only one with this problem? Does a dark cloud keep following me? And so, I could tell you I've gotten a lot of solace from talking with Alex over the years and talking to other entrepreneurs. And we feel that this show really hits a chord. It strikes a chord with a lot of people because, we're all kind of in this battle together. We're all kind of trying to figure out a better way through this mousetrap, if you will. And it's always nice to get some people on here that have gone through this and have had some success and kind of have, they've gone through the looking glass, so to speak, and they can come back and say, look, this is a good path to take, not necessarily the exact path, but it's a good way to go. Maybe a good way to think. Sometimes our thinking is what's the problem, and our mindset is in the problem because we all know we can't all be 100% every day, right? Some days you just don't want to get out of bed because you don't want to deal with the drama and the headaches, but the sun's coming up and we got to battle it out. So, Alex, once again, I always thank you for being on the show with us. And I'm looking forward to digging into our guest today. Let's hear what Doug has done and his trials and tribulations. And, again, the show is not to really promote what they're doing or their company, but kind of go, hey, tell us how you got punched in the face once and how you got back up and how you kept kind of battling on. So, Doug, thank you so much for being on the show with us today. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's an honor to be on the show.
Let me do a quick intro. So to give fine folks a little bit of a background. All right, how about we start with a Super Bowl winning place kicker for the 49ers. Whoop, whoop, right? So that's his first life. His second life, he's got like many lives, right? His second life is a co-founder of Waypoint Homes. That is, he grew that company into a 17,000 unit business with 500 plus employees, and then you took it public, right, Doug?
Yep, in 2014.
Took it public. All right, I don't think we had anybody on the show, Steve, that have taken a company public. So we'll actually break that down a little bit, though I don't think you and I are threatened with anything like that. And then in at least the next couple of years, you and I can survive without going public, right?
You never know.
And then now, so that adventure is concluded with huge success. And now Doug took part of the founding team and started a company called Mynd, which is MYND, mindpropertymanagement.com. You guys go check it out, mind.co, if you want to see what that is all about. And so this company is a multi-location, venture-backed property management company that built their own technology. And Doug, maybe you can tell a little bit more about kind of your current business and what the vision is for Mynd.
Yeah, so I think one of the big learnings from Waypoint Homes was that there was a better way to do property management. You guys talked a lot about getting punched in the face and, the adversity, the trials, the tribulations that every entrepreneur experiences. And, I think part of the secret sauce to being successful as an entrepreneur is viewing that, more as what is the world trying to tell me versus why is this happening to me? And, I think the way we approach property management at Waypoint Homes, it was certainly not to dive in and build a property management company. We tried to hire a lot of property managers so we could focus on fundraising and buying single family homes, but it just didn't work. And so we decided the only way to execute that business was to build our own technology and effectively build our own property management company. And one of the big question marks around buying a lot of single family homes was, can you manage the operational complexity? And I think the thing that we were the most proud of at the end of the day at Waypoint is we had 17,000 homes, and we managed that portfolio to an NOI margin that was greater than 60%, which is what you typically see with large apartment buildings. So we decided to take that learning and apply it to a much, much larger industry. If you look at the market for both single family rentals and what we call small residential apartment buildings smaller than 50 units, the thing that all of those types of buildings have in common is not enough revenue, not enough scale to justify full-time employees. And so we decided to take all that we learned from Waypoint and build a service platform, not actually buy assets, build a service platform to help individual investors take more control of the properties that they own and generate greater profits, and to do it in more of a 21st century way by measuring everything, providing a lot of transparency in the metrics that they're achieving through an app, and to also, do some things differently, like use self-showings for leasing, which we found to both be profitable from a management perspective, but also far more effective at minimizing vacancy and helping owners get better tenants in place. So that's what we're focused on doing. The goal is to be a national platform. I think that as investors, you always want to look at all the opportunities in front of you. And I think most people, I think it's like 85% of investors own properties within a 60-mile radius of where they live. And that's typically because they feel like they have to. And the real vision for Mynd is to have a management platform in the top, call it 25, 30, eventually 40 or 50 most investable markets, and ultimately provide investors a lot of valuable data so they can choose the markets that are best for them and have a distributed portfolio managed at an institutional caliber with consistent performance and one mechanism for reporting. So ultimately, individual investors can invest more effectively and efficiently. That's the vision.
So, Doug, that's interesting. Staying macro for just a second, then we'll dive right back into some deeper stuff. Renters Warehouse, I just interviewed their CEO. They just purchased a company called Own America, which is essentially roof stock. Yep. Right? Is that the kind of the vision? Is to be able to have that kind of a marketplace so your customers can buy and sell portfolio of properties without having to evict the tenant, go through traditional realty, all that stuff?
Yeah, I think the way we look at it is there's a lot of service providers that are needed for individual investors to invest successfully. They need managers, they need brokers to help them buy and sell. They need banks and lenders for financing. They need insurance. Those are kind of the big ones that people think of. And if you want to invest effectively and make it easy, we think there's the potential to create a platform. Building your own software, we think, is fundamental to being able to execute the strategy. But yeah, ultimately help investors make it simple. So helping them buy, helping them finance, helping them get better insurance products. Those are all part of our vision to make it simple. If you think about it, as the property manager, most enduring relationship, you're around for the whole ride from start to finish, and you have the potential to collect the most data. That data is extremely valuable because it can help owners make decisions based on all the data associated with their property and themselves for all those things: financing, insurance, buying and selling. And you can kind of put offerings or ROI enhancing opportunities in front of investors and help control that investing experience. And that's ultimately what we're about, is making investing in real estate easier. It's the best, to me, it's the best investment asset class in the history of American capitalism. Created more millionaires. I think 90% of all millionaires over the last 200 years associate a meaningful part of their wealth creation to real estate. We want to help more people, especially young people, grow their wealth through real estate.
So I got a couple questions for you, Doug. I guess the first question is your target property management companies, or is your target investors with the property management back end of it?
Our ultimate customer are individual investors who own properties. So part of our go-to-market strategy is to buy contracts from property management companies. It's a way for us to get some scale in a local market very quickly. And so we've bought 9 property management companies so far, but we're also very focused on, once we're in that market, once we have some traction and a portfolio that we're managing, to start getting out into the market, electronic, online marketing, word of mouth, referral channels, and basically grow and create enough scale in that market so we can start to bring our unit economics down and also have enough data so we can start adding more and more value for the owners in that market.
So let me ask you this. In regards to that, it sounds like your target, correct me if I'm wrong, is more the millennial side of the scale than the elder side of the scale. Is that a safe statement?
No, I think millennials, it's partially right. I think millennials are right down the middle for us, in the sense that they totally get how we're setting up our property management. The way that I like to think of it is, we're building a 21st century property management company. Millennials totally get it. Yeah. However, today, most real estate is owned by, an older generation. So Gen X, baby boomers, et cetera. In the next 10 years, we're going to see an unprecedented transfer of wealth from baby boomers to millennials. But we are very much building our product so that baby boomers, the older generation that owns real estate today, that it resonates with them too. And the way I always explain it to people is like, look, you don't have to be like a technology expert to work with Mynd. Is like, do you use Uber? Do you look at your stock or your saving, your portfolio on E-Trade? Like, those are the types of activities, those are the types of tools we're looking to use to make owning real estate easier.
Well, and the reason I ask that is, in the property management industry, the average age is 58 years old. So the average age of the property manager owner is that they're kind of sliding off the scales of retirement. Mm-hmm. And I'm not a millennial. I'm probably, I'm not sure what I am, but, you get that age bracket where we start bringing in technology, and Alex knows, we do some pretty radical things with technology that are a lot different, of utilizing leverage of apps and programs and staffing, which are a lot different than the standard property management company. My background being an airline pilot, we have a lot of checklists and systemizations in the cloud, which we've created for our own need, but it's scalable anywhere in the world. But my point is do you have a challenge with selling that concept to the older industry? And are you just playing a waiting game for them to kind of phase out to transfer it to that target that you need? Because like my mom, when she looks at her iPhone, she kind of talks to it. I'm like, Mom, you got to push a button before you talk to it. So there is a learning curve in that as well. So I'm just curious what your strategy is for that.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a learning curve for us as a company there. I think there's an art to it. And I think that, what we've come to realize for some people, the way we've built our company, that's sausage making. People don't care about how the sausage is made. They care about their experience, and results, right? So we've gotten very focused on the user experience, distributions, financial reporting, the metrics that they actually care about, and delivering them in the way that they want them most. Some people like to use mobile phones. Some people like to use computers. Some people like to talk on the phone. Some people like to test. So this concept of omni-channel, we're trying to set it up so that we capture all the information and we deliver it to people the way that they feel most comfortable receiving it, and creating a product that resonates with them today. So we're not sitting around and waiting until it all transfers to the millennials at all. We're trying to create a product that's malleable, if you will, and people can interface with it in the way that they feel most comfortable.
What has been your biggest, real quick, Alex, I'm just curious, what has been your biggest roadblock to date to get that transfer of power, transfer of knowledge to a certain group? Like what has been the roadblock?
I don't know if there's one thing that's been a roadblock. It's been more just of an evolution of you start with something, an MVP, a minimally viable product, and then talking to your customers. And, sometimes you got to be careful who you listen to, because small cohorts of people are not necessarily representative of like the market. So, I think we've had to start to get focused on, various types of personas. Like, we like to work with investors. Like, if you look at our background, we are investors. We approach this as investors. We're trying to set up the company to align our interests with our partners. And so a lot of the language we use, a lot of the buildings and the strategies that owners employ in their buildings, like, we're putting a product out there that's going to attract investors. And I think that helps us to kind of qualify the personas that are going to be a better fit for Mynd.
Sure.
So speaking of sausage making, that's where I want to go. So we now have defined what that product may look like in its ideal state. Now let's get into the factory. Let's see what's what. I want to beat you up a little bit, Doug, on a couple of things, because it's only fair. We've done to everybody else. Specifically, I want to poke at new location, sort of the whole process of onboarding a new location beyond acquisition. Let's say the acquisition happened or you open up your own shop. Steve has a lot of experience with that. Steve, you opened up in how many markets?
Well, we did 3. We did Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth, and then Austin is next on the books.
Did you scale it back, or you have those branches growing right now?
Well, we've scaled it back because we've found flaws in our system. So instead of keep repeating the same mistake over and over again, I wouldn't say we scaled it back. It kind of scaled back, and now we're looking at this going, okay, our systems weren't working, but we're missing an ingredient. And so now we're going back and saying, okay, I'm not a firm believer of saying we're special in this city. I don't think that exists. I think everybody has a problem. We have a solution. And I think that maybe the message and the delivery method of that solution is where the problem lies. I don't think the problem lies in the fact that somebody has a house that doesn't need to be managed, right? That exists. That problem and solution fundamentally exists. How that's delivered and conveyed, that's the question. And how you duplicate yourself from one city to the next is the question of fact. And that's why we've created our online checklists so that they're the McDonald's, right? They're scalable. Anybody in Texas, Alaska, Malaysia, wherever they are, they can use our checklist and they're scalable.
Gotcha. And Doug, what is your biggest challenge with new locations? You have, I'm looking at your website, and by the way, I'll be talking throughout the stuff. Looks like you, and by the way, the website talks about you managing 2,100 units and 3,500 units. It's somewhere in between there, right?
It's actually 43, 44 now. So
what? All right.
Not keeping up with reality.
Get your web person up to speed. Yeah. So looks like 1, 2, 3, 4 locations. What is the biggest challenge with the location specific scaling? Like, because things are so different everywhere, right? How do you deal with it?
Yeah. So I think there's been challenge. I mean, look, buying companies. M&A in the property management industry is inherently messy, right? So we've bought 9 companies to date. We're currently launching, new markets, like call it in the last 2 months, and then, markets will be launching in the next 2 months. So, a 4-month range. And, the thing that we've learned, to your point, is like every company in every market and every dynamic is different, and it's not a one size fits all. There's absolutely been like universal learnings from every single time. And we have a playbook that's growing in scope and detail in terms of like things that worked and things that didn't work. But we're trying we are our company that's very much about experimentation and continuing to try things until we find out what works. For example, in LA right now, we're launching with Veritas. They're the largest landlord in San Francisco. They're now buying properties in LA. We're going to leverage someone out of Orange County on our team for a little while. And we're not going to go buy a company. We're going to launch with Veritas. They have aggressive growth plans, and we'll look to grow directly in that market kind of leveraging that relationship with Veritas. Sacramento, we're looking to onboard in the next couple months, and we bought a company there, and we're keeping their team totally intact. You know, we think that's a big opportunity if you can find the right company with the right people, right cultural fit. And so their team, you know, their message, I think a huge part of the challenge is expectation setting and transition with the owners of the former owners and how you message that. So by keeping that management team on board and having the messaging being around like, hey, we're still here. We found a new platform that we think offers a lot of upside for you. And so we're going to be doing a transition. We sign them up on our PMAs day one, keep, you know, all of the fees and as much of the way that they're interfacing with them consistent as possible, and, you know, get through that noise over the first 3 to 6 months, and then start to focus more on growth. But retaining the management team or the ownership from a prior company is the result of learnings from the past, and we found our integrations to be a lot smoother when we do that.
So is your fee structure, sorry, Steve, is your fee structure different from town to town?
Yes.
Ooh.
And from portfolio to portfolio. So yes, lots of cats and dogs for sure. And the plan is to kind of merge all that over time. But we're trying to, like, our system is set up so that we can like have things set up by portfolio, you know, by owner, by building. So once the data is inputted into our system, it's fine to execute. Not the way we want to do it forever. And as we earn their trust and confidence, we will move it into a more consistent format. But I think it'll always be different by market because pricing is different in different markets.
Yeah. Just do what Appfolio did, you know, go public and then just raise prices by 50% and go massive profitably, you know, grow the stock 5x, all good. Make the investors happy. Would. So Steve, go ahead. I'm sorry. I interrupted you.
I guess 2 questions, Doug. So what is your conversion rate of PM companies when you're doing, you know, obviously you talked about roll up and roll out. So the roll out I get is what you're doing in Los Angeles with Veritas. The roll up, what is your conversion rate on companies you look at, and how do you get the buy-in of the staff to go with the new tried and true Mynd method of way to operate? Because we're looking, you know, we're trying to acquire property management companies as well. You know, and we have had some of the deals that we've been working on fall apart for numerous reasons. But I'm just curious, do you have a certain percentage conversion rate that you want to get? And when you get that conversion rate, like you've done some already, how do you integrate your system into there?
Yeah, so that conversion rate, that's not a number I have handy right now. I mean, we have a lot of top of the funnel activity. We're sending out letters. We're making phone calls. We, you know, bought and expanded on our list of property management companies and owners. And so we're kind of always in a nurturing campaign at the top of the funnel. And then we're basically trying to set up meetings. We have one person that focuses on this. He does a great job, and I think has earned a lot of trust of the managers that he's come across. But it's a low conversion rate. You kiss a lot of frogs. I think for us, it's all about, you know, what are the markets we want to be in? What are the types of portfolios that we want to manage? And perhaps most importantly today is cultural fit of the company. You know, we look at things like percentage of residents that pay electronically. Like when that's, you know, 80% and higher, it just tells us something about the way they do business and the way they focus. And, you know, you can just tell how people think about the business. And we're trying to find like-minded individuals that run companies that see the writing on the wall, that, you know, real estate and property management are going to change over time given the influx of, you know, new technologies, and they don't feel like the way that they're set up is for success. And they see what we're doing, and they see a 1 + 1 = 3, And so, yeah, they have to totally learn our system, and that's on us. We have, a whole onboarding process and training process, and we're going through it right now. In one market, we're about to go through it in another market, and it's all about, making sure that the org structure is set up, that we have the right people in the right roles, and that they're trained and fully up to speed on, exactly how we use Auto, which is our software system, and how we manage, so that, day one, when we switch over and Mind is live and the owners are live in Auto, everybody knows what to do and the transition can be seamless.
So curious, on what you've done so far, have you taken away maybe best practices from other companies and said, hey, it's actually not a bad idea? Or do you stick with what you have and say, this is what we're doing and the path we're going?
100% the latter. I think, when you just take a step back and, we're all entrepreneurs. I mean, to me, one of the things I've learned as an entrepreneur is probably the most important skill set is to be very self-aware and know what you're good at, you and your partner and your company, and what and what you're not good at. And I think, the one piece to this business that we did not have at our last company, Waypoint, was doing third-party business. So not just like we're great at managing assets, managing owners, a little bit of a new thing. Turns out it adds a little bit of a twist to the business, right? So we are absolutely going through everything that these companies that we're partnering with, how they do it, why they do it, and trying to come away with the best practices. So it's not about being right for us. It's about getting it right. And that's, really about collaboration and sharing ideas and coming away with the best practices for the
and also you're probably realizing there's a lot of revenue streams from owners as well that we're not able to capitalize on before. And I can tell you from my personal experience of going through, so I'm a pilot with United Airlines, and I went through a United Airlines Continental merger, which was we take the best of you and the best of you and try to put everyone together happy. And I would say it's been about 7 years and it's still not complete. Whereas opposed another airline merger, which normally they're ugly anyways, another airline merger was Delta Airlines and Northwest Airlines. They put them together, and Delta Airlines basically said, you know what, it sucks, but you're going to do it our way, and this is how it's going to be. 6-9 months, you're going to forget the way you used to do it, and everything was fine. So you have, this is like your way of saying we're doing it our way and this is how it is, as opposed to let's see if we can get these gears to align. And it's just been a horrible mess. And so I would say that I've learned from watching others, and I don't know if you've seen that as well, that the best of the best makes zero. It really does. It really brings the worst out in the employees and the staff, and probably your direction and your confidence in your product. It probably diminishes that as well, I would imagine.
Yeah, you know what? I think M&A is messy. It's an art. It's putting together a puzzle, and there's a ton of factors that dictate whether it's successful or not. Our last company, Waypoint, we merged with Colony, and Colony merged with Blackstone, Invitation Homes platform. And I would say both of those mergers were, at least advertised as let's take the best of both worlds. And I get there's challenges with that. But, what I would say about where we are right now, I don't know that anyone's ever tried to do what we're doing. Like, we are explicitly saying we want to build a national platform for small residential. It really doesn't exist. I mean, you look at like RPM, even Renters Warehouse, they're pretty big. They used to be a franchise. RPM used to be a franchise. Neither of those companies is truly national. And, to the extent that they can claim that, it's because they have franchises, and that's just a little bit of a different deal. So actually the way that we're setting up in terms of building a centralized operation and really trying to figure out like what makes sense to be centralized, what makes sense to be done in the region. And like, if we were doing mergers, or when we're buying companies in 5 or 10 years, and we do have our playbook, I see it being a lot more like Delta and Northwest. But to be frank, we do not have all the answers today. Like the one thing I saw at Waypoint is there are operational models that work until you have 2,500 units, and then all of a sudden they don't. And then you make a change and it works till you have 7,000 units, and then it doesn't. And so we've been through that up to 17, and we have people on our team who are now joining us from Invitation Homes, so up to 83,000. So we are truly trying to build like something that can manage hundreds of thousands of units. And again, and maybe it's the wrong answer, but like we don't have all the answers. So I would hate to go in and, not, be pretending that we do have all the answers and missing an opportunity to learn.
Well, you're in IP acquisition mode. I mean, what you're doing is you're buying that company as an asset, but you're also acquiring some of that IP. And local markets behave very, very specifically. And some of the behaviors that property managers, do that is driven by the market, but some of it is driven by their sort of inability to, or no experience operating at scale. Let's call it this way, on a location base. So each individual is different, but I see how what you're doing is makes sense to me. You're acquiring that IP, you're taking what you need out of it, you add it to your playbook, and that's sort of that is definitely how you build this out. That makes sense to me. But by the way, Doug, Home River is playing, right? One Rent is playing. There's another one just came out from Andreessen Horowitz backed. What are they called? Belong. There you go. They just came out like out of nowhere, right? Popped out right after the rain. And so, there's quite a few. There are quite a few.
There will be more. I mean, this is a really exciting industry. It's a massive industry. I mean, when you look at small residential, $460 billion of total revenue, that's like rental revenue. That's 2x the hotel industry. Just the property management fee revenue, $29 billion. And that's, what percentage is self-managed? More than half. That $29 billion could grow. So, antiquated industry, like really hasn't adopted 21st century technology, very fragmented. I've met other people who have not even shown up yet. Like this one guy in particular, I think he's a computer scientist from Berkeley, and he looked me up through the Cal network, and he set up a meeting, and he just said, like, I know nothing about property management. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a product guy. I think launching a company in this space makes a lot of sense. I think you're going to see more and more people see the opportunity and try to launch a company. The thing that I would say is really important, probably the most important thing for building real estate tech companies, is you have to have that blend of technical expertise and subject matter expertise. Like, it always makes me nervous when a bunch of technologists go into an industry like our industry and think that they know the business. Now, there's a lot of room to improve things, and sometimes knowing how it has been done can be a detriment to figure out what the right way is for the future. But to me, that's where the blend comes in, where you have teams that have both sides of the coin and can work collaboratively to figure out how to embrace technology and use it in ways that make results better for owner.
Gotcha. Let's shift gears. Another one that is immensely important aspect in the property management business. I don't care, you technology backed or you're nothing backed, or you just have a shirt and a clipboard. Steve will tell you. I want to Steve talk about this a little bit. But the reputation, man, it doesn't matter. Again, it doesn't matter who you are. You look up Houston Property Management, you see 5-star Steve's company with, 500 reviews?
497 or so, yeah.
497, okay. So that right there is the first point of opportunity, right? You get the click, you get the eyeballs. Then the website's job is to take them all the way to an inquiry, right? Or at least capture them for the top of the funnel nurturing. So what are your paths to the reputation building? Because I think that is like foundational. As fast as you're building companies, you got to build reputation. In my opinion, Google's not going away. Yelp's not going away. So what are your thoughts?
Yep. General philosophy is if you don't measure something, you can't improve. And I would say that one of the big mistakes that Colin and I made is we should have started measuring. We should have built the tools to measure our own internal performance sooner, because we've had it built now for 3 months and the results have been dramatically different. So what I mean by measuring things is using NPS, Net Promoter Score, with owners. We've seen our score go, it was literally -20 3 or 4 months ago, and now it's 19. And so we were sending out a survey that's based on a quarterly survey. But on a more granular level, we're measuring something called CSAT, customer satisfaction. So literally every interaction, like we have a case management system, and cases get associated with different types of work. So it could be a case with an owner, it could be a work order request, could be a resident services case. Every time our team interfaces with a client, we ask them for a score. And so same thing is true there. We've seen our scores, like, so now for both owners, residents, and work orders, it's over 4 out of 5. Now, we took some blows early on with Yelp where, we had some low scores. And if you look at I know Yelp is like, we could talk for 2 hours about Yelp.
No. Yeah, let's not go there. Yelp is, yeah.
They just, the group, you guys know, they literally just changed their algorithm within the last month. And everyone in the property management industry is like scores dropped.
Yeah.
And no one knows why.
So we know that. There's a group called Yelp Sucks on Facebook with like 2,500 property managers there. I didn't join, but just so you know, if you want to go there.
You know what Yelp score is?
One of the things that I learned is, and Doug, tell me if you agree with this or not, is one of the property management industry as a whole is a very reactionary industry. They're not proactive. So it's much like the federal government, right? Something happens and then they react and then they create a law based on what happened, right? And so what we've been trying to do on our side with our company is we're like, okay, we're getting a lot of phone calls, but what's actually causing the phone call to happen? Because when the phone call is happening, that is already one negative tick against you. If we can go upstream of that and we can stop that call from happening and make the proactive call to reach out to that person, now all of a sudden we're changing the dynamic of the relationship, whether it's with the vendor, whether it's with the tenant, whether it's with the owner. So we've been making a very conscious effort to be on the upstream and being proactive to first of all, identify, okay, we're getting these phone calls. Let's dissect these calls. Like you said, whatever you inspect, you respect. So now we started inspecting our phone calls to understand where the calls are coming from. Why are they calling? Once we realized where they're coming from, then we went and said, okay, how do we get upstream of this to stop that call from even happening? And why is it even happening? And what we've learned is, we use Property Meld for our maintenance. I'll use maintenance as an example. It's a great tool that they built over there. But one of the things that we've realized is every time after the maintenance item has happened, we've actually been having our team calling that tenant and doing the NPS questionnaire, 2 questions. And we have noticed that, number one, we're seeing the effect of a bad vendor. And number 2, the reaching out to that tenant has been causing us to get more positive reviews and a positive relationship. So we're being proactive. Now, Alex knows we kind of did a huge dynamic shift in our company where we now have, instead of a property manager, we have a client relations specialist that is the person that's reaching out to the client, the owner, and being proactive to getting them to increase their portfolio, to have that relationship so that you're basically building goodwill in the bank so that when something happens, now all of a sudden you have that personal relationship. Normally, whenever you call an owner, the owner's going, shit, how much is this going to cost me, right? I got to dig into my wallet because my property manager's calling me. As opposed to going, hey, I've got a great deal. You may be interested based on your goals. We sat down, we came up with a goal sheet, we came up with your strategies. This matches your goals. I think this is something that you and I as a team should look at. Now you're on the same side of the table with them. And what we've learned is that by doing that, it has increased our scores across the board because we're getting in front of that. Is that something that you have seen or tried to do? Or
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. There's a bunch of things we're doing. Like it sounds like something similar. Like we're meeting with owners and setting up an annual plan. So a budget. The way our system is set up, we can identify line item expenses that are out of whack for a certain building or a certain geography and say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Owner, I'm seeing that, your plumbing is running high. Like, I think one of the things we should do in 2019 is get a plumber out and do some evaluations because we're just going to keep incurring these, regular plumbing charges when there's clearly a problem. Like maybe if we get in front of it and identify it, we can fix it. And, that's a positive ROI to you. The other thing that we're looking to do is leverage technology. One of the big topics we always receive a lot of questions about is vacancy management, right? So as soon as that NTV comes out, antennas go up, like,
yep.
Vacancy coming, like what's going on? And so we're setting up a system where owners can opt in and opt out of notifications, but literally having auto notifications with, there was an NTV, rent is set, your unit is rent ready, weekly automated reports that show number of leads, showings, and apps. So the way our rent predicting algorithm works is we predict a rent, but then it's dynamic, and we use leads, showings, and apps to quickly adjust that rent. And so, by having that upfront conversation with the owner, like, here's how this is going to work. You're going to get weekly updates. If anything's off enough, we're going to, call you, but every week we're going to give you an update of exactly what's happening with your unit. And to your point, less phone calls, more goodwill. So I think getting in front of issues and highlighting the values that you're adding, not just like letting the interactions be when the problems are coming at you, is an important part of the managing owners piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, and I think, again, I think that inherently this industry is I tell people we're the Trashman of real estate, right? Nobody likes to hang out with us, but they know we're necessary, right? Yeah. So it's one of those things that, the mindset and the attitude of the average property management company is we just put out fires all day. All we do is deal with problems. But like you had said, there's a very successful set of people. They have goals. They bought an investment property because they had a goal. They had a strategy. At some point that diverged and they lost that strategy and they lost that goal. But it can very easily be brought back around and say, listen, you didn't get into this to buy one property. You bought into this to buy multiple properties because you had a goal of wealth. Let's get you back on that path of wealth and get you on the team, as opposed to us being adversaries and you getting pissed every time I call you because you think there's a problem. And I think it's a much different mindset than the average property management company, of just calling you when there's a problem, or you calling me to say, hey, I found out that my property's vacant. Thanks for letting me know. Yeah. Now you've got to backpedal and erase that problem, and all that goodwill is gone. And so that's what I've seen.
Yeah, I think that's right. And one comment I would make, this is something that we're very focused on at Mynd, and, to every listener, whether you're in the real estate business or whatever, there's a saying that I love, and it's data is the new oil. Historically, the companies, the countries, the individuals that had access to oil and knew how to harvest it, that was wealth and power. Yep. In the 21st century, it's about data. Yeah. 90% of all the data we have today has been collected in the last 2 to 3 years. Yep. And so part of what we're focused on is collecting as much data as possible and having teams of data scientists that can go through and, with enough data, I can predict what someone's distribution is going to be. I can predict what the revenue is going to be. I can have insights into the value of a property, what a rent can be, and start to really add some value to owners in ways they've never experienced it before, to truly make it easier and, set us up, to your point, to be able to kind of guide them through this journey and, maybe find other properties in other markets that make more sense. So that's just a trend I see in every industry, but in particular property management. Like, figure out how to harness and utilize data. And in short order, I think you will be in a very good position with your clients, because you're going to have access to information that no one else does, and you can truly add value.
Well, and to your point, the data tells you a story. You may not know what it's telling you, but it's telling you information. Just like in an airplane, right? The data is telling you something. You've got to discern that information. A case of, another thing that, I don't know if you do this, but you could take your data a step further and say, this owner has had 3 maintenance calls in the last 6 months on a bathroom issue. We are going to lose this owner if we get another one. We need to step in and waive that. Or, this owner has had, and I don't know what the number is, but if you look at the data and say, okay, we've lost 10 owners this year, and they were all happened within this many maintenance service tickets, or this dollar amount in ratio of rent or something, I'm sure there's a commonality of the data that's going to tell you when you're going to have an upset owner or when an owner's ready to make more property acquisitions. And you can get in front of it and say, hey, you're at about a 50% equity ratio in your asset. Why don't we talk about adding more to your portfolio? And you're ahead of the curve. And now they're going, man, this guy's pretty smart. He's in front of the curve here, where it's really the data that's telling you the story.
You know what's interesting, Steve? I don't know if you can do this with Appfolio. I doubt you can, but there's this new technology out there called sentiment analysis. And we just turned it on a couple months ago. So literally all of our cases have a smiley green face, a yellow straight mouth, or a red frowny face. And literally we're running our cases, our communication threads through a sentiment analysis. Google has it, Amazon has it, and they can look at the words and tell you whether the person's happy, neutral, or sad. And so our team, there's a whole page of cases. We can now go to the frowny face at the bottom and go, oh, geez, like this person may not be telling us there's a problem, but the language they're using is highlighting an issue that we need to jump on. And so that would be an example of, technology that is out there that people should try to figure out how to use so they can get ahead of these problems too.
It's like a smart KPI, essentially, is what you're saying.
Yeah, yep, exactly.
The next step for that is figuring out how to make that sentiment into a more predictive way to be able to show up with positive reviews publicly, right? So how do you take now that a trigger, right? Identify the trigger and then position the ask in the best possible way to get the 5-star, right? Ultimately, that's the whole. You guys can geek out on this all day long. I'm gonna let you do that. But at the end of the day, what you show up as is what the reality is, right? You got to show up as a 5-star, 4.5, whatever, right? 4, okay, but right, less than that, it's an uphill battle every time. Your BDMs are crying.
Like we're doing exactly what you're suggesting, Alex, is I highlighted the reds, but really the greens, like today we have our team call them, but we can also set up an automated system where they get a link that asks them, hey, will you give us a review? And it basically clicks through to either Google or Yelp. And, we kind of proactively get those positive reviews. So.
Yeah, that's perfect. And so that's the consistency and the discipline. The huge advantage of a larger portfolio is you can sort of semi-automate the process and really grow your review capital. That's what I call it, review capital, like Steve has done over the years. But Steve has been like little bit, 30, 40 reviews, and then he's got 150 all of a sudden. And then from there it goes up. But same thing happens with the negative ones, right? And this is, those of you listeners, business owners, we're all impacted by these reviews. So if you allow the negative ones to proliferate, what happens is others may just have a sort of meh experience with you. They wouldn't have gone and gave you a bad black eye, but they will, because everybody else is giving you a black eye. So they have the permission to go smear you and maybe even, lie a little bit, right?
Alex, I think it's really important, if you go on our site, property management, bad reviews will happen. Like sometimes you are doing exactly what you should be doing for the owner and the resident doesn't like it. Like that's going to happen. So, we try to be really proactive with the negative reviews and, find out what went wrong and also state facts. Like people will say a bunch of things. We have a case management system. We can go back and see and literally say, so, you inquire with, you asked this question on this date. Our team actually responded that afternoon at 3:55 and said this. And you go back and you state the facts. And
so you fight him, Doug?
No. I think there's an art to being adversarial versus saying, hey, we're trying to get it right. I
think you're pleading your case. I think you're stating your case in the public saying factually.
Right.
You're trying to basically show your side. Yeah.
We're not going to lay down and just, to your point, take it from people who may not be telling the truth. There's other times, read our response. You know what? We screwed up and we own it. Someone from our team is going to be calling you and we're going to make it right. We give people gift certificates. We credit rent. if we screw up, we own it. And you do that publicly too.
And I will say that whenever we have, like you said, everybody gets them, right? Everybody, you're going to piss someone off, right? if everyone's happy, we're doing something wrong, is what I've learned. Somebody has to be pissed at some point.
Well, your owners won't be happy.
Yeah, someone's going to be pissed. Someone's going to hate us, right? But what we've learned is and when we have gotten them, a lot of times we'll talk to the person. We'll try to make it right and say, hey, look, we're running a business. We even if we screw up, we apologize. Let's make this right. But we would ask that you remove that. And you'd be surprised when the emotion subsides and logic sets in. A lot of times they go, you know what? Okay, fine. Say, look, we want to make this right. I want to make you happy. There's no need to get no pissing match. But here's my favor, my request to you. I will do this, but I'm asking you to do this. A lot of times we're like, okay,
Absolutely. And you know what? You guys have probably seen this. We have people on our team that are masterful at that.
Yeah.
Just that, like, they can call someone, connect with them, get it, and like help us get it right for them and for us. And those are valuable people.
Yeah, absolutely.
So guys, we're at that time where we need to talk about or just mention where our viewers can meet both Doug and Steve. That place happens to be this year at the PM Growth Summit in Austin, Texas. Doug is going to speak. Steve is going to speak. But more importantly, we're all going to connect the network together. That's going to be an awesome time. Just those of you who maybe like you've never heard of PM Growth Summit, this is the premier conference for top echelon of the property management entrepreneurs in the U.S. More properties under management will be represented there than any other conference, even though we only have 250 attendees. So it's really focused on that top echelon, folks who are looking to improve, looking to grow, looking to figure things out, and find the relationships with people like Steve and Doug. So pmgrowthsummit.com, go check it out. I'm Alex with 4.5. If you are looking for help with your marketing and you run a property management company, ring my doorbell. Doug, how would people connect with you?
Doug, D-O-U-G at mind.co. Show up at the PM Growth Summit. Go to mind.co and, find me there. But yeah, happy to connect with people, super passionate about real estate investing and, helping other people be successful. So reach out.
And of course, Steve is at Empire Industries. What is your web address, Steve? I'm sorry.
EmpireIndustriesLLC.com. I know.
It's dude, you got it to #1 in Google. I don't care what is it.
Yeah,
I don't care what is it.
We're on page 1 of in Dallas now as well. So we're climbing the ranks. So we're doing something right, I guess.
Clawing your way up there.
We're fighting our way, man. We don't give up. But yeah, I'm excited about the PM Grow. The last one I did with you, it was awesome. I have to say that I met so many people and solidified so many relationships at that event that I've still been friends with and met, and it really was enlightening to meet the quality of people, the speakers you get. Top notch, I got to say. Very, very impressed, Alex. I don't know how you do it or what you bribe them with, but you guys are doing it. You and Jordan are doing a great job. So I'm excited to see what you guys bring to the table this year. It's going to be good.
Well, a lot of it is a high budget and a lot of work in making sure we help our speakers adapt their presentations precisely to the fit of who is in that room, right? Who's the audience, who is listening. Like that is the goal. So anyway, it was a pleasure. Thank you, Doug, for your time. Steve, thank you as always. We'll catch you in a couple of weeks. We're now doing these bi-weekly. Catch you guys in a couple of weeks. Thank you, and have yourself a wonderful rest of the week.
Have a good one, guys.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.